Golden Blue Dude here with you again, and today it's time to talk about North Carolina. Yeah, I'm that old. But anyways, North Carolina turned a lot of heads last year. Now, the thing I want to say real quick is when you're rebuilding a football program from the bottom, you go through 4 phases. Starting at the bottom, you start with phase 1, losing games in blowouts. You suck, you stink, you're terrible. Phase 2, you move up to losing in close games, but being competitive. I think that's where North Carolina was last year. Phase 3, you start winning in close games. And then the 4th and final phase, you start dominating games. We saw Clemson do this under Dabo Swinney. We saw it from start to finish. They started off bad, and now they're dominating. Last year, North Carolina was competitive, but lost 6 close games, including a 1-point loss to Clemson. Mike Brown already has North Carolina turning heads. In his first recruiting class at North Carolina, it was a top 20 class. Let that sink in. Now let's talk about their offense real quick. There's a lot to talk about. Last year, North Carolina averaged 474 yards a game. That's second in the ACC. And it all starts with reigning ACC Rookie of the Year quarterback Sam Howell. In 2019, he was 259 for 422. That's 61.4%. He threw for 3,641 yards. That's 28th nationally. 38 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. North Carolina returns a stout rushing game with Michael Carter, their first rusher. In 2019, he had 177 attempts for 1,003 yards, averaging 5.7 yards a carry, and 3 touchdowns. They also have Javonte Williams coming back as a running back. In 2019, he had 166 attempts for 933 yards. That's 5.6 yards a carry and 5 touchdowns. So, North Carolina could have the best rushing combo in the ACC in 2020. That's 2 possible 1,000-yard rushers. Now, not to be outdone, but North Carolina's receivers are very talented as well. They have wide receiver Daz Newsome coming back. He had 72 receptions for 1,018 yards and 10 touchdowns. And they also have Dyami Brown coming back. He had 51 receptions for 1,034 yards and 12 touchdowns. And another solid receiver will be Beau Corrales. Last year he had 40 receptions for 575 yards and 6 touchdowns. Sam Howell has yet one more reliable target he can throw to, and that is tight end Garrett Walston, who had 9 receptions for 76 yards and 1 touchdown. That's not great, but it's still another target with great hands. Now, 4 out of 5 North Carolina's offensive linemen will be back this year, so they'll have experience at offensive line. So, when you're talking about North Carolina's offense, they have the talent, they have the experience, and they have the recipe for an explosive offense in 2020. So now it's time to talk about the defense. The offense, explosive, great. But guess what? Their defense, not too shabby as well. Former quarterback Chaz Surratt was a great linebacker last year. He had 66 tackles by himself, 115 altogether, 6.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 interception. This guy is an excellent athlete. Another great linebacker that they have is Jeremiah Gamel. In 2019, he had 42 tackles by himself, 84 altogether, 2.5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. Now, the D-line, it will be retooled from losing Aaron Crawford and Jason Stowbridge, but it will be anchored by returning defensive end Tomon Fox. In 2019, he had 21 tackles by himself, 41 altogether, 6.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and yes, 1 interception. So, filling the starting roles on the defensive line are going to be Tamari Fox and Jaleel Taylor, and they will have a lot to prove, and they are very talented as well. Also, Desmond Evans, he'll be trying to prove why people are talking about him being an excellent pass rusher for North Carolina in the future, but his future will start this year. Now, last year, North Carolina's secondary had 14 interceptions. That's second in the ACC. They get cornerback Patrice Reen back from a torn ACL last year. That's a big-time pickup. North Carolina has defensive back Trey Morrison coming back. He had 28 tackles by himself last year, 31 altogether, 1 interception, and 4 pass deflections. Coming back with him is Storm Duck. I love that name. That's an awesome name. Storm Duck, 28 tackles by himself, 37 altogether, 2 interceptions, and 5 pass deflections. Along with those two, they have DJ Ford coming back. 30 tackles by himself, 54 altogether, 1 interception, and 2 pass deflections. All these guys are back, and North Carolina also will get help with transfers. They get cornerback Bryce Watts. He had to sit out in 2019. He's from Virginia Tech, but in 2018 he had 24 tackles by himself and 1 interception and 6 pass deflections. And they also get Kyler McMichael from Clemson, who also had to sit out the 2019 season. So the Tar Heels will be deep on defense. Talented and deep. So they're going to be good on both sides of the ball. So I wanted to look at North Carolina's schedule real quick. They have a tough start. At UCF, then they have a neutral game against Auburn in Atlanta, then James Madison at home, Georgia Tech at home, at Virginia, Virginia Tech at home, at Duke, at Miami, Connecticut at home, Pitt at home, at Boston College, and NC State at home. So, what's my prediction? Well, Golden Blue Dude thinks that Mike Brown has North Carolina looking like a completely different team than what everybody is used to seeing. North Carolina will have one of the best offenses in the nation in 2020. The defense will stay fresh with excellent depth, and they will create turnovers. And I think that Sam Howell is a future Heisman contender. Maybe not quite this year, but he will take a step forward towards that goal. Now, North Carolina does have a tough start to their schedule, but if they split UCF and Auburn, then I think North Carolina will have a 10-win season. I still have Miami winning the Coastal, but it wouldn't surprise me if North Carolina went to the ACC Championship game to play Clemson. So let's run through that schedule one more time, and I'm going to call out wins and losses. First game, at Central Florida. I'm going to give them a half. Next game, neutral Atlanta against Auburn. There's the other half. So I think they win one and they lose one right there. Then they get James Madison at home. Win. Georgia Tech at home. Win. At Virginia. Win. Virginia Tech at home. Win. At Duke. Win. At Miami. I'm going to give them a half there. I'm leaning towards a loss, though, because that's going to be at Miami. And on my Miami prediction, I did give Miami a win against North Carolina, but I'm not too sure about that anymore. Connecticut at home. Win. Pitt at home. Win. At Boston College. Win. North Carolina State. Win. So I do think North Carolina gets to a 10-win season. The question is, can they get to the ACC Championship and maybe, perhaps, scare Clemson for the second year in a row? I think they could do it. It's just Miami. Miami's looking good too. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on my next show.